Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Cyrus Gray, and this is our weekly edition of Election Central. Shortly, I will be joined by Francois Neal, Councillor Jerome Vaudier, and Mr. Francis Hinney. Hinney is out of Canada. Today, we're going to be discussing a few things. First, we're going to be talking about invalid votes with some substance. As you may know, in the October 10 elections, there was an unprecedented number of invalid votes or votes that were invalidated for various reasons. We're going to discuss that a little bit. It's been normally said that there were 114,000 invalid votes, but in reality, there was about 357,000 invalid votes if you count the invalid votes in the presidential vote count, the senatorial vote count, and the legislative vote count. We will display that number. We'll talk about it a little bit. And then we'll go on to the main topic of this discussion, the endorsements that are coming from various quarters for either the CDC of President Weir or the Unity Party of former President Ambassador Joseph Yuma Boakai. Very shortly, we'll come on. I'm going back into the back of the studio to welcome our guests, and in a minute, we will begin our show. So again, welcome to Election Central. I'd like to welcome our first guest panelist, Mr. Francis Hinney, Senior. Francis is in Canada. He's a regular guest on this show. He's the founder of the Liberian Association in the Canadas. Now, I'd like to welcome you, Francis. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Good.
Welcome to Election Central. As you may know, I'm in Liberia. If you hear some echo behind me, I'm actually broadcasting out of the Cape Hotel. So there are hotel activities around me. I hope it can be quiet enough not to disturb the reception, but that is where I am right now. So how are you and how things up there?
Well, not bad. We we are hanging in here, and as you know, we'll be calling and texting to just find out what's going on the ground. All of us are tuned to Liberia to see what is in the making, whether there's going to be a change for the better of the country. So, other than that, yes, we're keep praying for the country and see what's going to change as this electoral process unfolds. But thanks for having
so today will be our 8 days or 9 days from the elections runoff that is set for November 14.
Yeah.
In this edifice, I met Dr. Tubana Tipote the other day, and he tried to make the case to me that, in fact, the November 14 set for the rerun is a violation of the law. That the law said, the law said that the runoff should be held on the second Tuesday after the reading of the final results. And for him, that second Tuesday should fall on the 7th of November. I think he wrote an article about it, and also buttressed by Tewon Gonglo. But howbeit, the Elections Commission has set the date for November 14th, so all is set in that direction. Well, today we're going to be discussing two general topics: invalid votes and then the endorsements. Very soon we have on Evangelist Neil, who is the regular host of this program since I've been away, and hopefully Councillor Jerome Bodio. I also did something interesting that today. I shared the studio link so that any other viewer may join us if they wish to join the discussions.
Okay.
Well, while we wait for the rest of the group to begin, the first issue of discussion of invalid votes, what's your perspective? What's your impression about the October 10 elections? The conduct of the election, the way people voted. What are some of the things you have in mind?
Well, thank you, Cyrus. The first thing is the international community or whatever observers are there. They look at one aspect of the election, free of violence, and that's why they declare it in that way, that there were no political unrest or at a massive scale that would have been to any of the centers. So probably they consider that to be a fair or free process that enable people to go there. But my uptake when it came to the tallying of the ballots, I was appalled by the number of invalid votes that was counted. And I kind of think that seeing one or two of the ballots, how the marking of the ballot was done. I don't know where you place your pen to where it ends. Which one do you consider? Because most of the ballot I saw was placed on number two, and then the end of that thing reached up to the first person and declared that invalid vote. What I think the failure of that was the failure of the election commission to properly educate the people when it came to that. Somebody will argue that maybe because of the election that were held for the House, I know we had a senatorial election or midterm election, but that is not sufficient to tell us, that level of education. And the failure could be attributed to all parts. I don't know whether the political parties in their campaign were actually educating the voters of how they should vote when they get to the poll. We agree that's a responsibility of the election commission, but they would have taken the mantle, like I see them doing now, sharing the ballot paper with their people for the second round. So it's a total failure of the election commission to properly educate the voters of how to mark the ballot. And for that number of invalid votes, it's absurd. You know that those numbers are too high to be uh, anywhere between 100 invalid vote could have been accepted, but in thousands, I mean, I don't know. That's too much. That's too much, Cyrus.
You see anywhere between a few hundreds will be accepted.
Kind of be. If you look at the demographic of Liberia, you could say like maybe 100 people overall in the country, may have mischecked the ballots somehow. You can say that could be acceptable. Could be in the rural area, could just be the negligence of somebody. But that quantity of ballots that were declared invalid votes, I mean, too much, too much.
So Francis, let's give it some context. Let's look at exactly what the numbers were. Okay,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, many have been fixated on the 114,000 invalid votes that is referenced for the presidential votes, and not looking at the totality of the invalid votes. You may
Yeah.
know that in last election, 2017, there was a little upward of 88,000 votes that were
Same
also
again.
invalid
Oh
in the
wow.
first round. So let's look at what the numbers say in October 10.
Hmm. This is huge. And this is just for this year.
So
Yeah. Almost like something plenty, almost like equal numbers. Yeah. Presidential, total. 149. What? 1,900,000? No, that's not 1 million. Total vote cast invalid 114,000. I know the invalid vote for the presidential race at least 149 and 114,639 for the Senate. Yeah, for the Senate, it's 128,691. House of Representatives, 113,000. The total invalid vote, 357,200. That's huge.
Francis, you can hear me now. How I had
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
hearing you now. I'm hearing you now.
I had an internet problem. I got booted up a little bit, but I was hearing you. Let put that chat back on and
Yeah,
see if we can see it.
yeah. I'm looking at it. So
Yeah.
can you
So we've
imagine?
got
So we had a
yeah,
total number of registered voters up to 2 million, 2.4 million.
correct.
2.4 million. Now, of that amount, we are subtracting the total of 357,000. Yeah,
But so let's make that clear because 357,000 is the total in the three categories. Remember the three ballot papers given to each voter to vote for the president, vote for the
yeah,
senator, and vote for the representative. So the normal reframe is that there were 114,639 invalid votes, but that number does not include the invalid votes in the Senate and the representative. So if you total them, we had a total of 357,292
yeah,
invalid votes. There's something about these numbers that I I wrote an article that is going to be published tomorrow in the Daily Observer,
okay,
and I was asking the Elections Commission to explain that. If you go to the election portal, when they give the results, they give the total vote cast, which in this case, for example, with the presidency is 1,100, I mean 1,949,155,
yeah, mm-hmm.
and then they give that same number divided between valid votes and invalid votes. Because they in the polling station, polling places, every voter is given three ballot papers for the three categories above: president, senate, representative. At the end of the voting, the total valid votes and invalid votes in each category is supposed to be the same.
Yeah,
Do you agree?
yeah,
But look on the total votes cast, which is the total of the valid and invalid votes. It's not the same. From the president to the Senate, there's a difference of more than 8,000 votes. What happened to those ballot papers? From the president to the representative, there's a difference of 152 votes.
yeah,
What happened to those ballot papers? So these are some of the questions we'll be hoping that they will answer. Because except the voter took the extra ballot paper and put it in his pocket, uh, if he actually cast a vote, whether it was valid or invalid, he placed those three papers in the three boxes. So when you're doing the total counting in the end, the numbers for Senate, representative, and presidency in terms of the ballot papers should be the same number.
yeah. Because it's equal
But
number of
but but
ballot.
but we'll
Yeah,
correct. So
yeah,
so let's go to what the law says about how a vote should be declared invalid. This is the new election laws as amended in 2014 in the section 4.13. This is the standard that the Elections Commission can use. I'll give you an opportunity to read it. I've read it over and over. Maybe I
yeah,
don't understand.
yeah. Even if the voter has not made a mark in the box provided or has not made a correct mark, or there are other marks on the ballot other than the mark that identify the voter.
So the whole reading will say, notwithstanding paragraph 1, if
Hmm.
voters' choice of candidate is clear, the ballot paper should be counted as a valid vote
Yeah.
for that candidate,
Yeah.
even if the voter has not made a mark in the box provided, or has not made the correct mark, or there are other marks on the ballots other than the mark that identifies the voter. I mean, that part saying if the voter writes his name, then you can invalidate it. But if the voter's intention is clear, even if there are other marks on the ballot paper, the ballot is still valid. Do we understand it to be the same thing?
That's why I want to send it to be here.
So I took a sample of.
Yeah, that made me to the reference of that sample of the ballot that was published that I saw, where the voter clearly put his mark on his candidate of choice, but then dragging his check mark out, the check mark went into another box, which indicates the voter's clear intention. Why was not that ballot given to the person that check mark was placed on from the initial point?
Okay. Interestingly, the Election Commission has a handbook for their workers and gave a bunch of examples of ballots that they should consider invalid. I selected 5 ballots from that handbook that the Elections Commission tells her workers to consider invalid. In view of this law, I wanted us to look at those ballots one by one and determine whether they should be valid or should be invalid. Because the point I'm making is, if according to the law they should be invalid, they are being invalidated at the polling because in the Elections Commission handbook, the workers are supposed to make that ballot invalid because those examples are there. Let's look at the first one. This ballot is listed as number 2 in the list of ballots that the Election Commission workers should consider invalid in their handbook, their privacy manual. What do you say about this ballot's voter intent? This is a sample ballot.
Yeah. This one is hard to judge, huh? Because I can't clearly see the voter's intent here, Cyrus.
Well, I would say the larger part of the voter's correction sign is in the box with the guy there with the code, the third box. Even though a little bit of it goes into the fourth.
Yeah, but where did he start his marking? Kind of think about it. He started marking from the lady.
No, the beginning and the ending of the marking is in the third box. Is the V that is in the second box. So this is in dispute, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you think should be done about a ballot like this? Shouldn't it be put aside to be reviewed later on by a panel of people? This ballot is supposed to be declared invalid according to the elections NEC's handbook. Let's go to the second one. Can you see it?
So the second one, the voter is what trying to tell me that the 3 candidates down is not what he wants, but the one to the front.
Well, that's what it appears. He corrects the first ballot, and then he put a big X that covered the other 3.
Yeah.
Remember, we're looking for voters' intent.
Yeah.
So what will you say about this?
This is a voter's intention expressing that he does not favor the 3 candidates down, but rather the one on the top.
So the voter's intent is clear, right?
Yeah.
But according to the Elections Commission manual, this ballot is supposed to be declared invalid. I think their logic is that the voter put a mark on the areas that he was not voting. Yeah. But let's get back to the law, just for a rephrase. What does the law say? It said, notwithstanding the paragraph 1, if voters' choice of candidate is clear, the ballot should be counted as valid vote for the candidate, even if the voters has not made a mark in the box provided, or has not made the correct mark, or there are other marks on the ballots, other than the mark that identifies the voter. That X that covers the other 3 could be in the category of other marks. If we're saying that the correction sign in the first box is the voter's intent.
Mm-hmm.
That ballot technically shows where the voter's intention.
The voter intention is very clear here that this is the person that I want. And
But this
that like
ballot,
he's expressing, I don't want these three people, X them out, and then I want this guy on the top. You know,
but this
this
ballot,
I'm interpreting it. That's how I would
but,
see it.
for instance, I agree with you. It's clear. But this ballot is an example of the one that elections commission say should be declared invalid.
Yeah.
So let's go to the fourth one. What do you say about that one?
This is the same. The voter is voting for the banana. You know, he's
The
actually
intention
voting
is
for the
clear.
banana. Kind of, you can see the voter's intention here. He scratched those guys. I don't want this one. I don't want that. I don't want this. And then I want this person. Clear check mark.
That ballot also, according to the Elections Commission manual, is to be declared invalid vote. Now you're getting a picture of why we have so many invalid votes.
Yeah.
Then let's see the next, which is the last one that I took.
Yeah. The guy clearly said no, 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 and then yes.
And they declared this an invalid vote also. Or at least this is an example of what the Elections Commission told their workers to consider invalid vote. This is, frankly, this is not, it doesn't make sense. The voter's intention is clear.
The intention of the voter is very clear. I say no, 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 and I say yes to this one. Spell it up. I mean, this valid should not be declared. Invalid. Well, but the law, if the law is, in fact, like you read the law, no matter what other mark, but the intention of the voter is very clear. These are specific ballots that should have been counted for the voter, or, for the candidate.
The ballot should count.
Yeah.
Then the last one that will make you laugh.
Fool you. So there's a guy that gave the money. It's like, fool you, I ate your money, but I'm voting for this person.
So what will you say? Is the voter's intention clear here?
Yeah, voter intention is clear. It's clear. I would say that. If a logical person looking at this thing, the voter...
there lies the problem, Francis, because that the Elections Commission has designed a manual that tells its employees that if you see a ballot like this, you should declare it invalid.
Invalid.
Even though that would be contrary to the law that governs how you count a ballot, there lies a problem.
Yeah. But again, it said paragraph 1, it said, notwithstanding, if voters' choice of candidate is clear, the ballot should be counted as a valid vote for the candidate. And looking at those ballots between you and I, many of those ballots are very, very clear. It clears the voters' intention, what they were voting for. But it's a difficult thing to challenge. Only the court or the lawyers could interpret this.
Yeah, but the why that is a problem is because you do not, even though we do not have access to the invalid votes to know how
it was marked.
On what basis they were declared invalid. But what we do have right now is delineation between the law and the Elections Commission's manual. So I would think that the stakeholders should be engaging the Elections Commission right now to let them know that based on your manual, the instruction that you're giving to your voters is in violation of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is that instruction that they are using to determine, in some cases, whether a vote is valid or a vote is invalid. I get the sense that they're probably punishing somebody for marking something other than his choice, even though his choice is clear.
Yeah.
But the law says it doesn't matter if there's other marks on the ballot. If it's clear, the voter's intention is clear, that ballot should count. For the Elections Commission to be taking such a ballot and telling their workers that when you are counting, don't count this ballot. I think this is an issue that should be addressed now as we go into the runoff, so that it may likely reduce the
The number of
the
invalid.
number of invalid votes. There's another issue that I did not illustrate here. In the Elections Commission's manual, they also say that all ballots has to be stamped by the Elections Commission at the back of the upper right side of the paper. I don't know the rationale for that, right? It is only the Elections Commission that has printed ballots. At every polling place, the ballots that are taken there have a serial number that is read to at the beginning of polling, that the ballots that are here are from number ABC to number Z.
Yeah.
So that means the votes cast in that polling place with a ballot a paper should reflect a serial number on that ballot paper that falls in that category. Why is there a need to stamp the ballot so that by their standard? Because I had a conversation with the commissioners, some officials last week, and this is how I got the manual also. They are saying that if you cast a ballot and they're checking in the box and they see that there's no stamp on that ballot will be declared invalid. Well, for you to do that, it leaves all with the impression that you think that there are other ballots in the system other than your ballot.
Yeah.
But we don't know that. Nobody has said that. Nobody have said that. Now, the stamping process is manual. Remember? So that mistakes could be made right there, and some ballot papers could be missed. Is that ground enough to invalidate a ballot?
No.
Yeah, I mean, these are.
I would say no, because the voter does not have the stamp to stamp the ballot. Or are we telling the voters to remind the poll worker to stamp the ballot before they give it to he or she? So if I went to vote, if I went to vote, they give me a ballot, I will go and vote. And if it's not stamped, you declare invalid. If it's not stamped, it's not my fault.
I agree, and also we're talking about voters' education.
Yes.
Who knows that the ballot is supposed to be stamped?
Yeah, I'm just hearing that.
Yeah, so in the manual it said that the ballots are supposed to be stamped and they will be declared invalid if they were not stamped. So I'm trying to find the logic for such a huge number of votes declared invalid. And it seemed to me that the protocol that the Elections Commission has in place has the propensity to have such a huge number because of those ballots. First thing, that voters' intentions are clear, but they are told that it can be invalidated. And then the case of the stamping of the ballot.
Yeah.
Again, let's read that law. It said, notwithstanding paragraph 1, if voters' choice of candidate is clear, the ballot should be counted as valid vote for that candidate.
Yeah.
Even if the voters has not made mark in the box provided or has not made the correct mark, or there are other marks on the ballots other than the mark that identifies the voter.
It's like those on your show. The voter go no, and mark here yes. So this is who I want. That, I think, for me, that's pretty clear. Look at this one. In this case, the voter did not even mark. He scratched all the senators, or they scratched all the candidates that he didn't want, or he or she did not want, left the candidate that he or she wanted, and put a check mark in that candidate's box. This ballot cannot be declared invalid according to the law. You know? Look at that one. Even though the mark and where they're supposed to mark, but the mark with a clear word that said no, and then yes. This intention is a very clear intention if you're interpreting that. You know? This is just complicated to look at when it comes to our Liberian system. Look at this one. This one says, fool you. And then he check, because, and again, when you look at the ballot, there are two things you're supposed to put. You either put an X or you put a check mark. All the other thing the voter wrote here, it's not an X, it's not a check mark. He put a check mark to where he totally agree with. That's why he put a check mark to, or he or she put a check mark to. So I don't know who's going
Okay,
to tell me who's going to be the vote. Or it's going to, yeah.
well, I like
Alfonso,
to, I like to, I like to welcome Alfonso. Alfonso, it's evening here in Liberia, so good evening, good afternoon to you in New York City. How are you today?
I am good, thank you, brother. Hina has also been a while. Good to see you.
yeah, it's been a while. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Cyrus, how is it in Liberia?
Yes, it's good. It's tension filled here. There are expectations, but other than that, it's good here. We are in good health. The environment is still safe.
Wonderful. Okay, okay.
We've been
That's
discussing with
mhm. Yep. Go ahead.
It's frozen in
No,
Liberia.
no, I'm
So
not frozen. Oh,
no,
oh,
Charles is
here.
frozen.
Yeah.
Even though you and I were getting snow here, the man ain't got no snow, but he's still freezing.
All right.
Yeah.
So I
Alfonso,
was
what's
hearing you
what,
talking. I was
what,
hearing you talking about
uh,
the election process and
to
whether discerning the intent
give,
of the voter.
give
Yeah.
you
yeah.
an opportunity to do so. But that I need
He
just to give
has
you a chance
something
to
to
comment
display
before we get
in
to
the
your main
law.
topic on endorsements. So let's we started this slide which deals with this
Okay. Let
from
me.
first the record of counts. If you look at that table, it shows the three categories of elected positions that were being contested: presidential, Senate, representative. The first columns with numbers show the valid votes cast. The second column shows the votes that were invalidated, and the last column shows the total of the valid votes plus the invalid votes. This section of the discussion is on the invalid votes. The total invalid votes came up to 357,292.
Mhm.
Obviously, a very high figure. For the president, is 14,639. For the Senate, is 128,691. For the representative, is 113,962. A couple of things that I've noticed, I put that to Francis Hina and the listening audience. There are three ballot papers that were given to each voter to vote in the three categories.
Yep.
At the end of the voting, assuming that everybody voted using those three ballot papers, the vote should be represented as either valid or invalid. But also, the total number of votes, ballot papers in each category should be the same
Mm-hmm.
because three ballot papers were given to each person.
Mm-hmm.
So the total number of valid papers in each category, which would be valid votes plus invalid votes, should be the same. If you look at the total votes cast, which represent the total valid and invalid vote, you will notice already there are disparities.
Mm-hmm.
For the votes for the president and the vote for the Senate, if you do the math, there's a difference of probably over 8,000 or roundabout.
Yeah.
For the president and representative, there's a difference of about 152 votes. In the first case, 7 to 8,000 is a lot. I have not seen the elections commission explain to us
Mm-hmm.
why that difference.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's another category for that missing ballot, how will you call that category?
Mm-hmm.
Because in normal elections, we should also be told how many ballots were brought in the country in the first place. If
Yep.
you look at the laws in detail,
Mm-hmm.
the voting public should have an understanding at the end of the day how many ballots were brought, which ballots were not used, which
Mm-hmm.
ballot were void because either they were blank, which ballot was discarded because maybe they got tuned and they were replaced. Because this is a contest where there's no issue of trust. Everybody wants to be able to verify.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have those lingering questions. I don't hear those questions being asked. As I said earlier, there is an article that I probably shared the draft with you, Alfonso.
Yeah, you
That
did.
we hope it's going to be published in the Observer tomorrow. That threw a lot of light on this and leave more questions than answer. But this is the law that governs just the issue of how you validate or invalidate a ballot, and I'll read it. It says, notwithstanding paragraph 1, if voters' choice of candidate is clear, the ballot shall be counted as valid vote for that candidate, even if the voter has not made a mark in the box provided, or has not made the correct mark, or there are other marks on the ballots other than the mark that identifies the voter. So we got samples of five samples from the Elections Commission manual that they instruct their employees at the polling places to declare invalid if votes on the ballot appear those ways. So I'm going to run through them for your benefit of counsel, and after that, I'll give you an opportunity to speak on this invalid vote. This is the first one. This ballot is listed as number 2 in the manual from the Elections Commission, and they are instructed as a ballot like this should be declared invalid. This is the second one. The voter chose one person, but they cross out in one big S the rest of the candidates. This ballot in the sample of the Elections Commission, they are instructed to declare it invalid. In this ballot mark 6, the voter chose one, but crossed out the image of the other 3. This ballot also is expected to be declared invalid. In this one, the voter put no in every category and put yes in one category. This ballot is also expected to be declared invalid based on the training of the election workers. Then the last ballot, which I've been laughing at, the voter looked at a candidate and said, "Fool you," and then corrected one candidate. This ballot is expected to be declared invalid. Now, what are your thoughts on this issue?
So why he wrote for you? And all that, he ate the man money, took the man t-shirt.
I know that's exactly what I said.
Yeah, this is critical. And as you said, this is what the Election Commission taught their people. I don't know what law they were relying on when they were teaching their people in this matter. Clearly, in electioneering, international standard is being able to discern or to determine the intent of the voter. That's all there is. That's required by international standards. Whether the person wrote wrongly, whether the person's hand was shaking, and once you are able to determine the intent of the voter, that's the most important thing. The second thing is that the election officer alone cannot even determine, or it's not the person by law to determine whether a vote is valid or invalid. They have to go through and get the affirmation of representatives at the polling place. And to just add, if you go back to and read the report, the preliminary report of the EU observer mission, they did make a statement relative to invalid votes, to votes being declared invalid by the Election Commission. And in their statement, they said 2 very critical things. One, that there were ballots where the intent of the voter could be determined, but the NEC officials still determined them invalid. The second important point they made was that on many of those ballots, representatives of political parties and others who were present insisted that those ballots were valid. They argued the validity of those ballots, but the NEC officer still refused and rendered those ballots invalid. The 2 points here. 1, NEC officer doesn't have the authority to do that by law. 2, the intent of the voter was already established, so there's no way you should be rendering them invalid. And the third and final unfortunate point is that political parties or other people haven't really raised this issue and made the type of noise that should be made around this issue. But you're correct. 357, almost 356, 8,000 registered voters who got up in the morning, stood online, and voted. Their votes were declared invalid simply because somebody marked an X in the bottom of the X touched the bottom line or whatever, which was one of the samples. And then the other thing was this person crossed everybody and said, no, 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 I don't want these people, and say yes to one person. And you want to tell me you couldn't determine the intent of the voter? That is insane.
Yeah.
Then the second thing is also has to do with voter education. If this was this, did you educate the voters to this? We all know they did not. As a matter of fact, the chair of the election commission herself said before election time that there would be a lot of invalid votes. And her argument, the reason she was saying that was because people were tearing other people's posters, so when they go, they will use aggression and therefore which is not what you do, which is you educate people. So yes, this is a very serious problem. And I wished that some parties would have raised alarm, civil society organizations would have raised alarm, and even call for these ballots to be inspected. Just look at the invalid votes alone. Just inspect them. If you don't want to count everything, let's determine. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. I don't know whether there's any window. A 7-day window has passed. I don't know whether civil society groups just looking at it without firing a protest will work in this situation. But I think this is something that needs to be looked at very seriously.
I think the value that we can get out of this is now as we go into the runoff. I think these issues should be flagged, especially in view of the fact that there's clear evidence that the Elections Commission, based on their operating manual, is literally instructing their workers to invalidate those votes.
Yeah.
Which, according to the law, are actually valid votes. I think by now the stakeholders, especially the opposition, should be addressing that so that going into November 14th, that can be corrected.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then the other issue you raised, which is the discrepancies in the number of ballots, is also another serious question. As you correctly said, and I'm looking at now presidential, we have 1,948,000 total votes cast. Senate, 1,940,857 total votes cast. So that's, as you correctly said, there's a discrepancy 4940 plus 157,857. There are about 8,000, a little over 8,000 ballots that are unaccounted for there. So what happened? At the very least, they should explain to the public what happened with those 8,000 votes. And that goes to a deeper problem. These people do not feel accountable to the public at all. They think they're doing us a favor. They think that whatever they say, we should just swallow it and go. And that's a bigger problem in our governments. And again, as you said, we should flag these things, and we hope that the parties involved will pick up these things and make sure that they are not repeated.
Okay, Alfonso.
If somebody should even write a letter to the election commission or even put it, and you're doing something along those lines, so that's good. Put something public and let them be questioned and be forced to come out and explain these things. It's very important.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe that's the next step we should do. Apart from this article that's going to be published, I hope they draw the right attention.
Yeah.
But I think the key stakeholders should be asking these questions to the Elections Commission. If not for anything, we can correct the record later on, because if 114,000 votes is significant, if it turns out that a significant number of those votes are actually for a particular candidate, that could have influenced the outcome of the election in the first round.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And look at 128,691 in the Senate and Representative 113,962. Many representative and senator races, as I was looking at them, were razor thin wins. I saw somebody just won with 4 votes, 5 votes, then 20 votes, etc.
There are cases, Alfonso, where the invalid vote in a district for representative were more than 2,000. That's a
Yeah.
significant number of votes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So those could have, you know, giving us different results,
Yeah,
especially Senate and representative races.
I know. Should we even be saying that even if a representative did not get 50 plus 1%,
Yeah.
the two runner-ups should go on a ballot like the presidential race? Maybe we should be thinking about something like that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well,
You
in the
know?
case of the representative and the Senate, it's a simple majority.
Yeah, I agree. That's why it is right now. It's a simple majority. And only the presidency they put that caveat on.
Yeah.
So should we be looking at all the categories of elected officials should have 50 plus 1% of the people they represent?
I think that would be cost effective. For example, a district here, 17 in Moscow County, had 30 candidates running for
Yeah,
representative.
that's
Mhm.
correct. That's 30 candidates, and then if you reduce it because each of those districts had somehow even had 12 candidates. So if you
Mhm.
narrow them down to two, like we are now doing the presidential race, you will be seeing who is clearly the favorite to win the election there. You know,
Mhm.
or who
Well,
actually
I, I hope so. But you imagine if you were doing that, that means you're probably having election twice in every category. Okay, if you have 30 persons running for 17,000 spaces, the winner probably has 7 or 8,000 votes, and that would be less than 50,000 anyway. So you're going to say that there's going to be a runoff between that winner and somebody else, right?
yeah. The other key thing is actually out of the discussion today, but maybe in the future we that are going to be sitting down very close to the authority or close to we should do a real clear referendum in the future for people to understand how is it so easy to organize a political party in Liberia? The United States, as great as it is so difficult to organize a political party. That's why we only have two political parties in the States. Can we do something that would discourage people for this proliferation of political parties? That should be something which, for future discussion. I'm not bringing that up today, but just let's be thinking about it. Because that way, Nigeria has passed that threshold. Nigeria created two national political parties, and that's what they're having now. You gotta grow in that, or you cannot overcrowd the field. Which, if you're doing change, we'll do the change within. I mean, that's a different topic for another day. Anyway, let's
Yeah, I
let's look
mean,
at what's
Jay,
going
but
on right now.
for instance, to a large extent, the regulations that govern the formation and operation of political party are not stringently adhered to by the NEC. So it makes it
Oh
easier for parties to be first thing. A political party is expected to maintain a $10,000 balance in their accounts perpetually. It will be hard to find of the 46 political parties if you go and ask them for their account statement today whether they have $10,000 balance
no,
in
I
it.
don't think that.
Most of the political parties are running off the largesse or the pockets of individuals. They don't even
Yeah,
have a serious financial system where they are raising their own money. Uh, but all political parties should have offices in at least 6 counties, active offices.
yeah,
I doubt if that's the case. I mean, I could call names of people who contested in the elections. Uh, uh, that people are doubtful of their numbers because people don't even know whether they have offices here.
Yeah.
And then many other things, many other regulations that Elections Commission, if they were enforcing uh, rigidly, will control the proliferation of organizations. Well, I would
yeah,
say masquerading as political
yeah,
party when they do not
hmm,
qualify to do so under the law.
yeah,
Absolutely. So, for example, well, two things. Let me begin with the other one. So, one of the reasons why, one of the thoughts behind why they did not, Brother Hina, the reason they did not make it too steep for people to form political parties, especially when it comes to the financial aspect, is the argument was, we want to build a pluralistic democratic society. We want people to get involved. We've had an history where a lot of people were deprived, for a period of time, and then also were coming to the system. If we make it too steep, a lot of those people who do not have the economic power because of the deniers, decades of denials and all of that, will also be, eliminating those people as well. So let's make it as liberal as possible so that as many people can, register and participate in the process. But
So,
nonetheless,
Alfonso, it will be interesting to know who was making that stipulation, because the law is the law. If that was the sentiment of the key stakeholders in the country, then the law should be changed.
no, but that's how the law was. That's why the law was written in such a way so that, for example, instead of requiring $1 million to register a political party, they're saying just have an office and have $10,000 in your account. So,
But
and then,
my point is, even as low as the bar is,
mhm,
are we certain that each of the 46 political parties, imagine 46
mhm,
registered political parties, do
mhm.
they maintain on a
No,
monthly statement to the NEC $10,000 in their accounts?
I don't
no,
think so.
no.
I don't think so.
That was the second point I was coming to. So,
Yeah.
so I was saying the reason why it was made that liberal, that low, the bar was kept low. But even secondly, I agree with you. The
Mhm.
NEC is not enforcing any of those things. So,
No.
so what people do, they don't even have the money. They don't even get the $10,000. I've heard people just go and say, hey, um, can we just borrow some money from you and put it in our account? As soon as we get our registration, we'll get the money back to you.
Yeah, but, yeah.
Yeah, that's part of
That,
that. Because the NEC again doesn't enforce to make sure that the money is there on a monthly basis, is there over a period of time. No, that's
mhm.
not enforced. And then the other requirements you talk about, which is, you must have offices in 6 counties. You must have. That's the reason why NEC has magistrates, first of all, who should be going to these places and inspecting and making sure that these offices exist. They should do voter registration ahead of time so people have the lists.
Yes.
So, because not only the law doesn't only require that you must have an office, you must register a certain number of people from each county
Yes.
be registered for a period of time for you to register your political party. But in the absence of a voters roll or whatever that people can refer to, if I go to Bapolu County and I say I get 5,000 people from Bapolu, here's my list. How does anybody even scrutinize that list? What do they base the scrutiny upon in the absence of a fair and
I,
transparent?
I think, and that's it. That's some of the issue. I think that should be matched against the person's voter's registration card.
Yeah, exactly. But
It should be a legible voter based on the records of
exactly,
the
exactly,
NEC, and that will show that they come from
yep,
the particular county. But
Yeah.
exactly.
this require intentional application of the law, and this is one
Of
of
the
the
law.
shortcomings that
Yep,
we have in Liberia. People
yep.
Yeah.
don't like to do the heavy
They
lifting.
don't. They do not do that. So anybody can just bring a list and give it to NEC. NEC doesn't go to verify the list. Nobody does. I remember in the past, I don't know which election it was, but I did see lists published in newspapers.
Yeah.
I did see lists published where people had the opportunity to then look at the list and say, "Oh, this man who Mr. Henan said lives on the Oro and is one of the people he registered does not live there. That
Yeah.
is not true." So
Yeah.
people can challenge names on political parties list and take them to court, and that could lead to them not even being registered. That's not happening anymore. That's
Oh.
not happening anymore. So yes, a lot of requirements are not being implemented and not follow up on.
And I can agree with more, Alfonso. What I see happen in our Liberian society, it's not that the law is not there. You see, in these countries that we live in, the laws are on the book, and the enforcing authority of the law are actually equipped to enforce the law. Let me give you one example. We live in the province of Canada called Ontario. So the premier won the election in Ontario. There's certain part of the land that is called the Green Belt. There are speculations that he has gone to work and manipulated and got some money from his business friends. They want to develop those areas as exclusive zone for the hierarchy to live in. Some little person challenged the issue. The Auditor General of Ontario came and declared that this thing was based on favoritism. The Premier has retracted his urge. In fact, his minister resigned. So they now gone back on the drawing board. But see what has happened. The RCMP, which is the National Security Agency, the Royal Mountain Police, they are now investigating the process. So if they found that these malpractices were actually perpetuated by this government, it could lead to the downfall of the government. Not just the downfall of the government, it could lead to the premier and all those in charge going to jail. We have those particular laws on the book in Liberia. But who's to enforce those laws? We have not strengthened and prioritized those institutions. That's why you go, you commit a crime in Liberia, and you pay the person who's supposed to enforce that law, you pay them and you walk away. You don't pay taxes. When I was associated with the government, the central system of the central auditing, just as example, Cyrus is an internal auditor for the government. Cyrus will come to my business, and he got all the records to prove that I imported at least $10 million worth of products in the country. And the taxes are supposed to pay the government. Cyrus got all those information. Rightly so. He will go to the guy who in the business, say, let me see your accountant. The accountant will come and produce the records and match what he has. And Cyrus determined that this man is owing government taxes of maybe 1.5 million to pay, or 700,000, 800,000. He will prove all that he called the prima facie case. He will prove it to the client. And what a Lebanese man will resort to bribe him. Lebanese man gave him 1,000 of the 1 million that he owed government, and the guy hold a fire and walk away. I saw that happening in the Liberian government, in the Internal Auditing Bureau at the Ministry of Finance. So that guy, those guys had like 10, 7, 15 businesses that they would just go to. When they broke, they just go there. They get a $1,000 to go. But you think if we're really enforcing the law, those things will be happening? It will not be. The reason is because there should be a separate, these separate entities should operate directly on what the law said they should do. I see people fight the police in the street. The policeman said, don't park a car there. And the person, his brother's a director or somewhere, boom, they slap someone in the ear. And that case will not go anywhere. I was in Monrovia in April, and the police director and I were talking. I said, I see the streets so crowded and very stupid. Why are you not enforcing the law? Is it, friends, that you want me to still be police director? I said, because by the time you enforce that law, the first thing is those guys riding the motorcycle on the street, don't even want to estimate them. The guy wrongly go on the road, you arrest the motorcycle, you impound it.
I'm losing your signal. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Cyrus, can you hear me too?
Yeah, I can hear you. But guess what? Who are your thoughts for the next round? We reached our 1 hour mark.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Election Central. We're discussing today 2 big topics: invalid votes coming out of the October 10 elections, and what those numbers mean. Again, I'll reference an article that I did on that subject. My expectation is it's going to be published in the Daily Observer in Liberia tomorrow. We'll share it as much as possible. My intention is to have the stakeholders raise some of the outstanding questions, to have the Elections Commission address them, so that they informed November 14 voting in a more positive way. But
So, Cyrus, I don't know if it's me, Mr. Hina, are you experiencing? Cyrus seems to be breaking, right?
I was on mute speaking, Alfonso. I think Sarah is having a problem with his internet.
Yeah. Let me text him. Maybe I can pick up from here. Who's running the show today? Cyrus, you having connection problem?
even lost him now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think basically what he was explaining to the viewers at this mark, because it's 2:30, so it's we wanted to start the show, go
Yeah.
into the meat of the actual show, discussing the topics. So, but basically what Cyrus was saying is that where we are where we were in the discussion, which is that we were discussing let me see if
The
I can
figures, the
add him
disparity
back
in
to the
there.
stage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're discussing the valid and invalid vote situation and the other
Yeah.
issues. Cyrus, you're back on. You did go up, so you can come back.
Yeah.
Take a look. Yeah.
He'll come back again.
Oh, let me add him to the screen.
Yeah,
Where put it? All right.
Alfonso, who's that guy standing
Cyrus.
by Cummings on that picture?
yeah. Okay, I'm back. I'm encountering some usual
Where?
internet issues
Um,
here in Monrovia. So I will have you take the lead on the discussion on the endorsement, just in case I get kicked out.
yeah.
But give me a second. I wanted us to introduce that sequel with a good image that you had shared with us prior
Mhm.
to the elections. So we get some context. Let me see if it can run. If it, it's not happening, Alfonso.
It's running. It is running.
We don't have a police commander
Now
that
it
you can
lost.
tell this man is denigrating government. We want to have him apprehended for saying or for insulting officials. You go there, they will tell you, say, we cannot do that. You go up and down, it will not be done. And when you go to the court is not you. They will gather you. They will disgrace you. So the arms and ammunition that we want people to supply us with, we want a police commander that is purely sedition, the deputy that is purely sedition, and officers that are sedition, so that when we talk as a team. And we want a court judge, the magistrate, and all the people, most of the people that are in that court, to be seditions to the court, so that they would interpret the law. When we say pro, the laws are there ever since.
That's absurd. Really? Alfonso?
Yeah.
Did you hear that good? That's absurd. What?
But what's even more absurd, Brother Hena, is that that request was actually granted and implemented. That video, the background to that video, it happened in Foya, and the person, the white T-shirt, who the guy was addressing was what's his name, Thomas Fala.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's Thomas Fala. So my understanding is Thomas Fala actually did hire a CDC police director whose nickname is Thomas Fala's son in Foya. He also did change the magistrate, replace the magistrate, and replace everybody, other police people in the town, maybe transfer some of them out and brought the CDC people in the area. So when you saw that violent incident that occurred between Unity Party and the CDC people in Foya,
Mm-hmm.
the reason why you have police officers stationed in Tamafala house instead of actually going and guiding the people who were marching was one
Yeah.
of the reasons. That wish that guy just talked about was fulfilled. It was granted. So they have a complete citizen structure in that area. So that's even more absurd than the statement that was made. I
We
just
are
wanted to fill you in on
Okay.
that.
we are doomed.
Okay.
Damn it.
So Alfonso, just as an interjection, you notice I already having some issues, so just take over the lead. I will be here as much as I can. If I get kicked out,
That
I
you
don't want it to impact the discussions. Yeah.
okay. Okay, but let's okay. All right. No, oh,
Francis,
you
you were
want to take
also
over now?
asking
Just keep going
how much
if you
longer
want.
you need to be here, as long
Yeah, I
as you
was
wish.
asking. Okay. I see we run
Oh,
1 hour
oh,
already. I
why
was kind of
you
thinking
need to
of
run, Francis?
Yeah, we need to run in maybe in the
Okay.
next hour or so. But I want to. I'm very interested in Sarah's.
Okay.
I've been bugging it every now and then, sending text messages. I really wanted to know what was going on the ground. And like your topic, I'm seeing that the endorsement market. What the effect?
Yeah.
What's happening on the ground?
So, Cyrus, I think that question
You
is
want to
being
fill us in with
posed to
that? What
you.
is happening on the ground? What the effect of this
Oh,
endorsement
well,
are going?
I can speak to that. I can speak to that generally. Though we are here in Liberia getting just about the same information that everybody is getting around the world. We know that you have two candidates now left on the ballot, Ambassador Walker and President Weir. And as you expect, they're both reaching out to people. I think based on the numbers of votes cast, except probably except in the case of the CPP, which have fairly low numbers unexpectedly, but you had a big show of the president, both the president and Joe Barker visiting Mr. Cummings at his home at separate hours during the same day. We know now that the Mr. Cummings and the CPP had made a decision, very peculiar as it is. Maybe we can go into more discussions about that. But in the case of ICO, Lucini Kroma, I think, who was the standard bearer, I think the party has had a formal endorsement of Ambassador Boakai as their preferred candidate. And then there are other small endorsements going on. There's something going on that I cannot verify. Here at the Cape Hotel, I happen to spend some mornings here, and one of my co-hosts here is Councilor Telwan Gonglo. He takes a table here. So just a few days ago, we had a long chat on and off. By that time, the impression was that he had endorsed Joe Barkai. There are indications that he may have changed that. I don't know for sure. I hope to see him again tomorrow or Tuesday to verify that personally, because in my mind, it's a little doubtful. But that's what's unfolding here. So it's not about endorsements and endorsements. So I know Alfonso and you, Francis, will be interested in the intricacies around the endorsement of CDC by the CPP and the statement by Mr. Cummings that he's going to remain neutral, even though his party is going to endorse President Weir. So this is what is going on. So if there are any particular concerns raised, that what I know about it and the information we have, we'll share and open it to discussions.
Yeah. I
Just
think
before you go quickly, did I hear two different endorsements from ACO? Maybe I saw a video like ACO endorsed George Weah, you were coming from ACO office, and another one ACO endorsed Ambassador Boakai. Is that a split between those in the party?
Well, as far as I know, officially the party endorsed Joe Barker.
Okay.
But
so I'm not sure.
it's not unexpected. Yeah, it's not unexpected that somebody head of the party will endorse somebody, and then some other people in the party, maybe youth group or whatever, will go and endorse somebody else. This is I mean, you will know that the whole idea of endorsement is driven by interest.
And
And
Brother
somebody is
Hina,
driven by.
that's why we're referring to it as the endorsement market.
Endorsement
It's a
market,
market
yeah.
now.
Yeah, somebody is driven by a significant exchange of money, and if you and it's politics. It's kind of queer. Think about it. I mean, just a few weeks ago, Henry Costa, Ben Ure were all up seeing ends against George Weah, using even derogatory comments about corruption and all kinds of impropriety, and here they go and they endorse George Weah. Ben Ure and his ALP were at the forefront of the prosecution of Cummings in the CPP document issue, supposedly in support of Barker's candidacy. Here they go and they are supporting Weah against Barker. And sometimes you think about the question of it's not. It's difficult to discuss this endorsement without discussing the issue of integrity. So, Francois, I will pass it on to you.
Yeah,
Definitely. And I like us to go in detail in discussing these endorsements. Firstly, the issue of integrity that you raised. reports out there that money and promises of jobs are changing hands, and then I really personally want to zero in on the Cummings ANC and LP endorsement, because as you correctly said, they were all running around there and championing, the need for change. And Liberia has 6 more years of Joshua will be hell for the Liberian people, and unfortunately now they're running back to endorse Joshua, confusing the whole process, or at least confusing the voters. But I think there's also a larger piece that we should consider, which is, as we started talking about, the whole idea, the whole fact that it's so very easy for people to form political parties and to maintain political parties in the country. That's one of the things that's really contributing to this whole thing, where people just go to borrow some money, put it there from a political party, and they wait, knowing they won't win, make any significant impact, but hoping that they will endorse somebody who the person will either give them money up front, or when the person wins, the person will give them jobs. And I believe that's diluting the democratic process. That's deceiving the voters. Some of these people know what before or at the time they get in the process, that the reason they get in the process is to pledge their allegiance to somebody, so the person can give them money or give them jobs. Because does it really make sense that you organize a political party, you say this person is such an evil person that needs to go, you make all of the compelling arguments why this person go, you tell voters, you convince them, and you turn around and maybe on a cover of darkness where somebody comes to you, give you money, promise you jobs, you go and endorse them. What are you going back and telling the voters? Or do they even care about the voters and what the voters think? Do they go back and make that argument? I don't see them doing it. They just make endorsement and move on. And the voters are left with questions. And I think that borders on integrity very seriously. I think that's a very important point, Cyrus. It's about integrity. It's also about just selling. It's the same thing as betraying the voters. You tell them one thing, you bring them on your side, and then you later abandon them and go do something else. So yes, so the LPP, as you said, led by Councillor Tiawan Gongo, had I saw them officially endorse the UP and Ambassador Joseph Boakai. The ALP, which is the All Liberia Party, I believe, of Mr. Ure, did endorse Mr. Weah after several years of criticizing Weah's leadership. And that's where Karen Costa and other people were. Karen Costa, who was a champion for Boakai just the other day. Basangai Finley, Senator-elect of Grand Basso, has endorsed Mr. Weah. Edith Gonglo, former superintendent of NIMBA, who I believe she lost 2 senatorial races. One of those senatorial races were to Boakai's uh, current vice presidential running mate, Jeremiah Kuhn. She has endorsed Mr. Weah. Um, I should say that Councillor Gonglo, the LPP, and Edith Gonglo are brother and sister. So the brother went the other way, the sister went the other way. And then we have Alcop, as Cyrus mentioned. Alcop is the party that was founded by Haji Kroban and other people. Is actually an offspring of Ulimo K, I believe, MRM, and then Ulimo K. Lucini Kumar is the standard bearer. They had a big program I saw endorsing the Unity Party. And then we have the CPP, comprised primarily of the ANC of Mr. Cummings and the Liberty Party of Mr. Bromskin. Peace be to those actors. They both have basically, so Mr. Cummings was the standard bearer. Now, Mr. Cummings has decided that he will remain neutral, but his political party, the ANC, can go ahead and do whatever they want to do. I don't know how you be leader of a party, tell them go do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to, And then, of course, the Liberty Party did that as well. So that's where we are. I think we can discuss if we like first of all, the root causes of all of these things. What makes it possible, for these people to just throw these little so-called political parties around all over the place, which I believe the purpose of which is to make money off of the Liberian people. Yeah. So yeah, let's begin
Let me
out
let
this.
me let me chime in there, Pastor. We've always in our earlier presentations months before the elections, we've tried to we ask the question, why do people vote? You know, and the idea was, in fact, we facilitated um, programs with key members of the key political parties to explain or what is it they wanted to do for Liberia, how they would do it, and in the hope of having us discuss policy issues, because the idea of somebody assuming leadership in the country is to be able to address the public good. And I don't think we got a lot of traction there. And even in the electioneering process, it seemed the candidates were now required to tell the Liberian people how they will affect their life differently, whether be it the issue of national security, law and order, economics, healthcare, education, in view of all the dismal records that we have. So it will be interesting to find out why do people vote for a certain candidate. I'll give you an example. The current president, it's common knowledge that the CDC has done a very, very dismal job. For them to be contesting at this level, that they even won the first round of the election, is amazing. It's as though the voters do not care uh, whether or not the trash is still in the streets, healthcare system is still screwed up. Money's allegedly got missing $25 million mopping money, got missing. The international donors wrote the government telling them that they should stop taking money that been kept for escrow. So many other areas of inadequacies that were clear that the government has failed in many ways. Yet the government won majority of the vote in this first round. So again, what is the value of endorsement? So if a guy, a party got 3%, 4%, 1% of the vote, and they have a big show of it, does that endorsement translate to their people following that candidate to vote for the other person? These are some of the things that probably, your views would be interesting here.
Thank you, Cyrus. And if I would chip in that question you just raised about would the people be uh, moved to vote for that candidate that has been endorsed by their party, it's going to be a yes and no question. This is one thing for us in Liberia. The integrity, what would I say? That platform to excel in our country is missing. So as a result, when you look, most people look around them, there's nothing to do it, and everyone is looking for a shortcut to be able to live, happily, or to be able to get wealth. So they find a loophole that even this money belongs to me as an individual or as a citizen of this country, but I can lay hand on it rather than going through the legal or what you call it, the proper process, either working or being educated to get paid, will never happen. This is what happened. Our society, people are disenfranchised. So as a result, any shortcut, they will take it. If you ask the question, these little parties that are being endorsed, can they identify 15 or 20 people that will go and multiply? Are they giving them something to go and campaign for these people that they're endorsing? Maybe they are. Maybe they are. Maybe that's the strategy that they're using. I'm trying to make reference to that ballot where you say fool you and then check for the other one. Whether they're going to write down the ballot or it's going to be their mind and then they check for the other person to go is another question to ask. But you hit the key thing was, first of all, we should be able to enforce the laws that allow for political parties to be formed and do the check and balances on it. Independent security system or independent auditing system. If we can have that, and they will say Sarah's party has met all the requirements, and maybe 1 month later, it will be true that Sarah's party have violated, and they can be disqualified, we will have a strong mandate in place to get some things working. But right now, I see in Liberia, it's a hustle. Anybody who can throw out the highest amount of money, the people are going to follow you. Whether that money will influence them to vote for you, or they are having the opportunity to just take a one grab, I'll be able to get $1,000 or $2,000 from the process, so I will take it and just run with it as something to be, something to look at. But when I listen to the ordinary people in the street in Liberia, when they put a microphone to them, what I hear them speaking, I don't know whether money is going to, be the cost of them voting for one person. The other thing you talk about over there is that the CPP or the leadership for any institution must be decisive. The decisions you make and the policies you implement makes you who you are. You cannot just be weak and be sitting down without making issues. And I have that issue even with the Unity Party. I made several calls in Liberia after the election was announced. I mean, the result was announced, and they're going for a second round. And some of the key people I know, I've made a call to them. So what are you doing right now? At the leadership hierarchy of the Unity Party right now is the one opposition we have that I strongly believe that maybe can come to power, we can be able to make some change from around there because there will be a clear path that we can work through. I don't want to be government official. I want to see that the pathway is clear, that I can contribute to what can happen better. But that is another leadership crisis, just at the CPP. If the head of the CPP or the standard bearer of the CPP cannot make a decisive decision, a decision that go do what you want to do, I'll stay here, without a very strong policy in place or a strong word that would discourage people from doing something. I'm standing for this principle. I cannot encourage you to go endorse. If you're doing something for such endorsement, you are not doing it at CPP, because I'm the standard bearer for CPP publicly on the radio, so that when something happening, the people that follow you will know you still stand by your principle. My first call to Liberia was to talk to the woman and say, what are you going to do? Now the field has been narrowed to one opposition party, and that's you. What's the olive branch that you're reaching out to the other political parties? What a word you're telling them. I heard you say the word, but was it forceful? Was it said in a way that can encourage people to come out? And someone complaining we don't have money. And well, that's true. But some leaders, you don't have to have the money, but the way you exhibit yourself, you put your policy forward, you can win people over with that kind of policy when you put it through the vote. So that we have this muddy water running around Liberia. And what's happening, the young man who controls our money is just throwing it out. He's throwing the money out, and because people are hungry, they're taking the money. Whether they're going to translate that money to vote at the poll is another question to ask. But for now, everyone taking money because they're hungry. They want to eat. So the endorsement market in Liberia, I don't know whether it's yielding good fruit or that publicity is going to translate into vote. I don't really know. But what I can sense here is that the opposition is willing to capitalize on the real message. They must, even those who didn't win the election. My nephew ran in district number 6. That's the first time in the political office. He came second. I called him. I said, what's happening? You were on the United Party ticket. Why are you sitting down? Those 5,000 votes you got, you need to go back to the people and say, even though I'm not going in the House, but the principle that I want to establish in this country or what I was fighting for can still be realized if you follow the trend of what I was doing in the political party. I said, that's what you do. You don't just fold your hand and sit because it's over. No, you have to believe in what you're doing. So if you ask the question, Alfonso, that's endorsement market. That's just my little take on it. I don't know whether it's going to translate into vote.
Yep, definitely. So to just answer the question you asked before you end it, which is, was it's a yielding fruits? Is it benefit me? Yes, it's a very lucrative market for the people who are engaged in it, for the politicians who are selling the vote. It's very lucrative for them. They get money out of it. They get jobs out of it, of course, at the expense of the people. And that's the sad part about it. Cyrus, I think you raised very important questions. Why do people vote? People should be voting really to support leaders or for leaders that who support their values to come to power, to improve their living conditions, to do the role of a government, the responsibility of government to provide services to the people, is to provide security to the people, and to provide people the opportunities that would make them realize their full human potential. That's why people should vote. However, in a really very poor, poverty-stricken society as Liberia, and in many other corrupt dictatorial societies, what people have learned to do is to make sure that they starve the people of the basic necessities of life and make the people dependent upon them. Once they're able to control the people's bellies, control their entire lives, then they can as you say how high, just so they can have food to eat. And you made another important point. Because the people are so very dependent, they don't ask for policies. They do not ask for policies. They do not ask for policy prescriptions. They do not ask for your platform or program. We've seen politicians, and I will look for it as you guys are talking, holding bags of money in their hand and distributing it to people to vote for them. Going right before election to start building school or digging toilet or opening a road, whether it even meet all of the specifications, no one knows. That's why when it rains more, all the roads go bad because they didn't follow any development plan. They just do that so that to tell the people that they're doing something for the people so they go vote for them. And real quickly, do these endorsements translate into votes? I would say 70 to 80% of the time, no, they do not. And here's why I say so. And before I even go there, that's the reason why. That's one of the reasons why we usually have there are many other reasons, but it's one of the reasons why we usually have low voter turnout in the second round. Because if it did, people would show up. If my leader tell me go vote for this person, then I go vote for them. Then everybody turns out. No, of course there are other reasons such as I'm not going to stay in line again. I don't trust those people. But I would say that they do not necessarily turn into votes simply because a politician says let's vote for this person. You have to do your work. You have to tell people what it is that you will do for them. Your political leader might help in that process to get you there, but the endorsements by in of or themselves, I don't think would do that. Endorsements have some value, especially now, which will be the psychological value, the psychology of it. So let's say the opposition political parties, for instance, got up and endorsed the only opposition person left in the race who's going against. The psychology there will be that the people will say, "Oh, the opposition is united. They are together. So therefore, we should join to really voting because now the opposition." That is the value that would have brought to the table if that had happened. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. They're all splintered and gone into different places. And because of the splintering, I believe it will even drive down voter turnout. People would just say these people are not serious. This man was just telling us the other day that we are must be a one-term president, and now you're not serious. I'm not going to waste my time to go and vote. So again, those are what's so in term that would it translate into votes? I would say 80% no. The psychology piece has been missed, and it will drive down voter turnout because people will just get disillusioned with politicians to see as politics as usual and just withdraw from the process.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you. Let's
We also
welcome
just had
George. I mean, Benedict Fuller,
yeah,
Council, if I may. Benedict joined us just a short while ago. Benedict, we've been discussing first invalid votes, and we're now discussing
yes,
the endorsements.
yep, yep, yep.
Alfonso called it
Welcome,
the
Benedict.
endorsement market. endorsement market and the impact on the November 14 election, by whether the endorsements would translate to physical votes. Or I thought it would be interesting to also discuss the implication for the political aspirant who are endorsing, for example, Mr. Cummings, who, although an opposition person who have been given red card to wear, has allowed his party to endorse wear, even though he says he's neutral. So, hey, join in on the discussions.
Yeah, Sarah, I would like to say thank you for inviting me again. And for me, if I look at an endorsement, I like to look at an endorsement by the individual or the party to see whether there's an impact when it comes to a specific individual or there's an impact when it comes to a specific party. And when I look at the field in Liberia, I think that key endorsement that I think that is very critical for the Liberian politics right now. So some of those endorsement has impact, and some of the endorsement there is no impact. It's just loudmouth and other things you see out there. And one of the most critical endorsement I think within this race right now is the ARCO endorsement. And because ARCO endorsement, what it brings to the table for the opposition party is solidify the votes in Lofa, Neymar, uh, uh, Bombing, I would say also Bapalo and Kipman, because what happened over there, you have a huge block of Mandingos and Muslims in this area, and most of them going to be voting what the heads or what the political leader tell them to do, even though people may say, oh, they would not, everybody would not vote, but I believe 90% of those people going to vote for Unity Party. And when you look at the other endorsement, like the Costa endorsement, I just think it has no significant impact. I think the only thing it does is it just silence one of the critics of the CDC. That's all, because I don't see any significant impact with Costa at all. I think, in my honest opinion, I think what it does for CDC, I think they're losing votes by accepting Costa endorsement. I don't think Costa endorsement were relevant. I think whoever advised the president to even take Costa endorsement was, and I don't think it was a good strategy at all, because that endorsement doesn't have any impact. It does not translate to votes. And I don't know what kind, why you have to align the president with such a man that have criticized the president for almost 5 years. And I just don't think it's had any impact. And the endorsement with Bessenger Finland, I think it has some level of impact, but it's left to see the results at the end of the second round to see who will win Grand Bassa, because Grand Bassa is saying like it's Yombling on one side, you have Bessenger Finland on one side, and now Bronze King is not in the mix. I don't know what's going to happen over there, but it's a significant. Is Bessenger endorsement also significant for the CDC? If the CDC can rely on Bessenger to go out and campaign still for them within Bassa, I think they can make a significant impact in Grand Bassa. And when it comes to the Cummings endorsement, I just think, I kind of shocked that Cummings never went out and endorsed anybody. Cummings should have taken a decision, whether it's the Unity Party or the CDC. But if you look at Cummings' strategy, I think one of the strategy was just to stay aside, don't endorse anybody, and then wait for the next election. I think it's very weak if you decide to just say, okay, I'm not going to endorse anybody. I'm going to just sit aside when the next election comes, I go contest. I think you lose some level of significance. So what I think Cummings should have done, if he want to endorse CDC, he could have endorsed CDC and say, okay, I'm just going to endorse CDC, but I'm not going to criticize CDC for the next 6 years and just wait for the elections and contest if CDC happens to win now. Or he could endorse the Unity Party, in my opinion, and say, look, I'm going to endorse the Unity Party, but I'm going to chastise the Unity Parties when they're going wrong, and he will gain a significant level of integrity and experience when it comes to that. I would criticize them when they go wrong, but you could sit and say, I will endorse Unity Party and just sit aside and watch how Unity Party will govern, And then in the governance process, because one of the things he had already chastised two political parties of is this war crime code. And I don't know if either of them is willing to establish the war crime code. So I just think there's some endorsement that has an impact, and there are some that really don't have any impact, like all the other smaller endorsement. And I don't think the CPP endorsement, the CDC, have any significant impact. I don't think so. I just think it's just a lot of noise, and people want some money, and they run it down there to get some money, and that's it. But in all honesty, I think right now, I would say this: the momentum is with the opposition, and they just have to solidify and see how best they can get to the finish line. But I think the ARCO endorsement was a game changer for the opposition.
Yeah, I if I can come in there, Alfonso, I just wanted to agree with Benedict on a specific point of my friend and brother, the leader of the CPP, Cummings. That decision you just alluded to is primary or very paramount to his political future in that country. I can tell you from what I know and people I spoke to, they all wanted a Cummings walkout ticket. This would have been a one-round election finish. I'm sitting on the very table that he and I sat here, and I said to him, Liberian politics, if I may generalize in Africa, what the people had lead into is where you have to go. They keep telling you this old man, that's strong, this and that. We want the two of you to join together. I would have put all those political dilemmas behind me. But I tell you, there was a web the guy was tied into as well. I heard that even the Musa Ability, who is now head of the table and pledging support to CDC, did not have a single picture of Cummings on his campaign flyers in Nimba County. He did not promote Cummings one bit in Nimba. That's what I heard. I've not seen his campaign flyer, but I heard that he did not have a single picture of Cummings on his campaign flyer, nor even the vice president or vice presidential candidate for Cummings. So whether it was a syndicate that they put around him to discourage or stop the merger between those two individuals in the country, if it was, then it succeeded. But like you rightly said, that's when I would have bounced back at this point. Rather than looking back and crying on why they took me to court, why they did, I would have been a bigger person to come out and say, look, even though you did all of this to me, but this is what we're supposed to do. And like Sarah Marcel said, you cannot govern until you win.
Exactly.
You can only govern when you have won. So I would, and that would be a very strong principle. He came here, we're having a town hall. Somebody said to him, what have you done to help the CDC? I was the one to answer the question. I said, I read the man manifesto. I read the platform as an individual, as an economist, what he was looking at, the strategy of how we can transition Liberia from where it is to where we can move to. Nobody implemented that. I will be speaking to those policies when I'm endorsing the opposition party, because my goal is to change the system that is in place. I will not be neutral. I would definitely have gone to endorse the only opposition party that is available now. I just want to add that to the piece that you just said.
Alfonso, I know you will be anxious to hear my views on Mr. Cummings' decision, and to the extent that you were anxious to hear my view, I will reserve my views, since at least most people know that I have to put them Mr. Cummings, and I have some views, but I think it would be unfair for me to make any definitive statement about the decision that he had made. I would have hoped that Mr. Cummings would support the opposition candidate that the people have decided should lead, because the issue was at CPP. They could not make a decision amongst themselves, so it led to all kinds of contestation. Some people got aggrieved, some people may have crossed some lines, but the people in an election that they all contested decided that Joe Barker, way by far ahead, is the one that they prefer to run. So I think That's where the decision should have been. As for Mr. Cummings' future, considering all these things and the decision he has made, I will also leave that to pundits and to what unfold in the future. But I will support the candidacy of Ambassador Boakai in this runoff to do the best I can for us to get it over the hill, because I believe that we need a change. The current government has failed us, and the only answer we have now is in the the Unity Party and the coalition that they put together. And that's much as I would say. Except to say on the question of whether there is a direct correlation between endorsements and added votes, I want us to also include this caveat that has become common. Most reports have said that 8% of the votes cast around the country were votes for people who were lifted from one place to another. Now, most of these people were lifted by people contesting for Senate or the House of Representatives. There's no contest for Senate and the House of Representatives right now. How would these people who have been moved from their locale, which costs money, transportation, put down, how would that impact the runoff vote? Is there any maneuvering for those who want to be president to repeat the trucking of these people, or these would just be votes that are going to be unaccounted for?
I mean, I would say this. I think the first round in the elections, you have 1.8 million people voting. And
So let me, if I may come in, oh sorry, if I may come in here real quick, I'll be real quick. I think Mr. Cummings demonstrated two things here. He demonstrated that he's not a leader. He demonstrated complete naivety of politics. He might have succeeded in the private sector, but he clearly demonstrated he's not a leader, and he kind of affirmed what people have been saying, that the private sector has a structure. All you have to do is fall within that structure, and that doesn't necessarily, the intricacies of politics that you're dealing with day to day, everyday things as they pop up. You're making the plans and the decisions. I think that's slightly different. Those skills are transferable, but Mr. Cummings has clearly demonstrated he's not at that point that he can transfer those skills. This would be the second time that Mr. Cummings is staying quote unquote neutral after he lost a presidential race. This is not the first time. The first time was in 2017. He declared, he and Bromskin, that they were going to be neutral and not endorse anybody. He lost in this election miserably, and he's still saying he's staying neutral. His party can go, but he's not going to endorse. That's not leadership. Leaders direct their people. Leaders set the agenda and set the stage and build the path for people to follow. He demonstrated clearly he's not a leader, and anywhere I see him looking for a political leadership position, I would criticize him. I would say he's not a leader. The second problem he surrounded from the beginning, and I saw my friends, Cyrus included, supporting him, and I watched them with a caveat. The group of people that Mr. Cummings surrounded himself with in the first place were not, you can't surround yourself with those people and tell me you're going to be a good leader and you're going to bring the change that he was talking about. And it's those same type of people that led him astray today. They refused to listen to him. So the best he felt he could do was to say, I'll be neutral, y'all go do what you want to do. For fear that if he resisted, they will break his party apart, or they'll break the party apart. So he rather say, he rather tell them. Now, if this man became president and these people were making the same kind of noise, what would he have done? Would he have done the same thing? Or my man, go take the money, or my man, just go take the yellow machine and do whatever. But I'll tell the people, I don't know. Don't tell nobody that I'm aware of it. Is that what he's going to do? I mean, this is what he's demonstrating here. He went and made several demands, and I just want to talk about two of those demands. Mr. Cummings talked about those set of war crime court. When was the last time Mr. Cummings ever set a referendum or came to the UN or wrote a letter anywhere demanding war crimes court of Mr. Weir, who's president, of Mr. Sharif, who was president when the whole thing of the war crime court was passed? What is his work? I see that as smoke screen. He wrote it in his platform, But I can tell you many other political parties have it in their platform too. Just we had it in the platform before he became president. They implemented? No. So writing something in your platform doesn't mean that somehow you are a champion advocate of. Another thing he talked about is, that law must be passed. Whoever wins should assure him that law should be passed, that they will have 30% women representation in the legislature. That's a laudable thing. We all have been advocating for this. Political parties have signed off on this. Unfortunately, they didn't implement it. Mr. Cummings and CPP themselves did not accomplish that in this election. They didn't even do it. I was looking at the numbers. That he had two candidates for senator on the CPP ticket. That's laudable. Two females as senators, but that's not 30%. He had. Let me see how many House of Representatives people he had, because I did a list of all of them. His total was about 19% or 20%, which again is laudable, but it's 30%. How you going to demand something of people to do this thing when you yourself can't even do it? I went on the Election Commission website. I went district by district and listed the females that the CPP had on the. But as one of the demands he's making of other political party as a condition for endorsement. Finally, let's say that the Unity Party came out and said, "Okay, we agree with your demands. We agree with all of the demands you raised." And CDC also said, "We agree with all the demands that you raised." What was he going to do? He was looking for a way out. It's a tricky way out. He said, "Okay, both sides agree, so I will not endorse anybody, or I would just let my people." That's failed leadership. Everything Mr. Cummings has been telling the Liberian people for years. President Mr. Weah, and 6 years of Mr. Weah will put the country in a hole. He wants the country to go into a hole, be worst, so that in 2029 he can have an I don't know, let it break down so that when I come on the scene and I say I will fix it, they will say, "Yeah, we really need fixing for try with him to have conversation," but that's definitely how he comes across. And that's my opinion of Mr. Cummings. I don't think he's demonstrated any strong, effective leadership at all. And I think he just tried to play with the Liberian people just for power. And every time he goes into a race and he loses, he sends a message to the Liberian people. Keep suffering is your business, is your problem. If once you didn't elect me, I care less about you. That's the message he has sent out there. In terms of whether the endorsements from his party will win votes, as I said before, I do not specifically think so, except they actually put boots on the ground and go and convince people and tell people what it will do for them. Endorsement in and of itself will not bring votes. As Benedict said, even the alcohol people, even though we know the alcohol people to often usually vote as a block, but you still have to go and convince people to vote. Yeah. So yeah. That's just I did of Mr. Cummings. I did my analysis. I went in the election commission and I did my analysis in terms of how many female you have on the list, and it's not 30%. So stop using women to gain some kind of political clout. That's
Honestly, you must be really mad at Mr. Cummings.
I mean, Cummings, I don't know, as a politician.
He betrayed the Liberian people. Look, I can tell you, my brother, Liberia, and I convened no Liberians should dilly-dally with the future of the Liberian people. At this point, that country, and it needs to be resurrected.
Something I would say this, Osiris.
Anybody who plays political games with it, I'm mad at you, of course. I don't. It's not that. But Liberia cannot continue on this path. 6 more years, Mr. Weir, Liberia will be unrecognizable. And that's just my view.
Cyrus, I would say
go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, you know,
So,
for
oh,
me,
Benedict, I'm
it
done.
doesn't matter who
I'm sorry.
comments and does. But the thing is, as a politician, and if you have followers and you are the leader, you have to take the lead. If you endorse CDC, come out strongly and endorse them. If you want to endorse the Unity Party, come out strongly and endorse them. But I heard, I was listening to Spoon TV. Oh, the man want to be neutral. Yes, I mean, it does not say because you work in corporate America. You know, you have to make decisions, especially when you're talking about profit and loss. You know, if you will lay off staff, you're going to lay off staff to make profit. You have to make a decision. You can't sit supinely and say, look, you know, for me, I will just be neutral. And you know, so you in politics. I'm not a politician. I consider myself not a politician. I'm an analyst and I'm a strategist. But if you, as a person, you have to look at both parties, both candidates, and say, okay, what would be the negative, or what can I do if I endorse it? Because if Cummings was to endorse we are, I just think he would just have to sit aside, don't criticize the government if we are wins tomorrow, and just wait for the next election. And, you know, and if he endorsed Unity Party or endorsed Barca, he could have be forced for endorsing Barca, but he could have also lay out a caveat. Look, I'm endorsing this candidate, but I'm going to be a fierce critic of the government if they go wrong. You know, but if you can't come out as a politician to do some of these things, then what made you think if you come and lead us tomorrow or you lead Liberia tomorrow, you can make this kind of tough decision? This is you have to be a when you're a politician. For me, you got to make this tough decision. You can't sit supinely and see people looking up to you to make a decision, and you say, "Oh, Musa ability and other people and other." No, I blame Cummings himself. He's not a leader. He's not a leader. You see, I blame Cummings. You can't say Musa ability to put you on his side. If you're a leader, you will take a stand. And you take a stand, go by it, and say, and anybody, because right now the endorsement set with CDC, because it does not have the hair. I understand Musa ability wasn't there. It was somehow a little bit weak, and you know, because people look up to him to make a decision. Let a CPP is sprinter all over right now. He has some group going to the Unity Party. He has some group going to CDC, and it just collapsed. I think I know that ALP or who, but he should have make a decision. And in a corporate world, he worked in a corporate world for a long time. You got to make a decision as whether it's profit or loss, and you are working with one of the biggest firm in the United States. And you can't make a simple decision. You know, I couldn't believe it that he was just sit supinely and just move on. No. But I think he lost some political capital. I don't think he can rebound from this, but he still got time, in my opinion. He still has some time before the election. He can come out and endorse anyone. So I would just say that, look, it's a big error on Common Park. And I don't think Liberian will look up to him for leadership anymore if he doesn't endorse anyone. So I will turn it back to you, Cyrus.
Okay, gentlemen, we got just under 5 minutes more of broadcast. I think 3 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been with us, we've been discussing the invalid votes in October 10. What the numbers are saying. As I've said earlier, we have an article in the Daily Observer tomorrow. I will post a link to it as soon as it's published that deals with this question of invalid votes. There was a total of 357,000 plus invalid votes if you include the presidential category, Senate, and representative. Such amount is significant. There are some reasons, or at least some speculations in that article, and some questions that we are asking the Elections Commission to answer. Then we went on to the endorsements, the implication of the endorsements, actual endorsements. I see a few minutes, a lot of time was spent on Mr. Cummings's supposed neutrality. I really don't consider neutrality because if you're leading a party as a sinner bearer and you allow the party to go and endorse somebody else, I think you are just endorsing that person in disguise. But be as it may, that's where we are. So we have 2 minutes just to close up, ladies and gentlemen. I will give you guys the opportunity to just give a parting statement, and then we'll end today's show.
Well, I go first, and you know, because I didn't get the chance to speak to the invalid vote, but I think one of the things you should be looking at an invalid vote from the perspective of the presidency right now and how it compared to last election. Because if you bundle all the invalid votes together, for me, it does not really make sense to me. Because how many invalid votes when it comes to the presidency, how many invalid votes when it comes to the Senate, you have to distinguish it. And to the representative, you have to distinguish it and compare it to last election and see how that data compared to last election. So yeah, and then all right, that's but how the data compared to last election is very critical to be able to understand it. You see, because the presidency invalid vote 114,000, that's very good. For me, I don't know what's happening, but if you compare it to last election, it seems to be measurable at the same level. And so if you compare it to last election, but what I would say, look, the elections second round is in a couple days, less than 2 weeks. And I think both parties have drawn their own strategy. And I think the best strategy is going to get to the finish line. But I don't know who's going to get there yet because it's a tough race. But I think right now the momentum seems to be on with Unity Party. So I stop there.
Thank you, Benedict. The two guys are hosts on this show, so let's get out of their way and try to go. And I can't agree with you more. What I want to start from with being a leader, the hard decision is for you to make. Yeah. As a leader, you must make the tough decision. As if I will use the word, as irrelevant as we may think we is making a decisive decision. Seeing the country crumbling, I watched one of the guys a campaign rally. People had not taken pay for the last 3 months, and he stood there and told them, "Say, I pay you every month." A bold-faced lie in the public space, and people laugh. I expected my brother to have, like Ray said, to stand there as a leader. You must be able to make that decision. I will support this group, and these are what I will be doing. I will watch for this thing. And nobody in my party should step out of here to go the other direction. You should stay. It doesn't mean they're going to follow you, but you say it because you are the leader.
Exactly.
When I started the foundation of the Liberian Association of Canada, I was fought from every direction. But we survived. I was there for 4 years. I've had 2 successive elections. They've been there for 4 years again. We just had another election. We're going to do an induction on December 2nd. This is an institution that we don't command money, but we have policies. Even the social media platform we have, you go there and mess up, we'll kick you out. You have to be decisive when you take decisions. This is lacking. This is lacking. If our political opposition leaders would take that mantle, and then just before I go, there's one guy in that country that is making, I wish he would have run for president. Maybe he would have won. That young man called Yeke Kolba. That's the guy who stood up and said, "I will not run campaign, but the people will vote for me." And they did. He won with more than 50% in his district. When they had up to, I think, another about additional was 6 or 7 or 8 candidates against him. And he won that. People with the biggest amount of money, but he still won. You got to build that trust. I wish my brother, we got a few more days. We'll come back tomorrow. Cyrus will call him to look, say something so your people can wake up. Let him say something. My people are not sitting down. I will endorse this candidate for X and X reason. And I will watch because I want you to know that I can defend you. What happened yesterday is gone. This is me, and my vote is for Liberia. I want to liberate this country, so I'm doing this. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Brother Hina. I want to think that the water is already under the bridge, Brother Hina. I don't think comments can come back and reverse what you already did. It would be too much of a suicide. he already swallowed the cyanide. He already swallowed the cyanide. You just got to wait until it kick in and break up his intestines. I think this whole thing, and that's why Cyrus and I refer to it as the endorsement model. And it's very insulting and abusive of the Liberian people and the Liberian voters. These people jump in this race just solely for the purpose of making money for themselves, getting positions, or putting themselves on some pedestal, and that's wrong. And a lot of the endorsements here, a lot of people who participate in the race after that. I mean, somebody gets 0.1%. Did they even think they were going to win? As I was going through the representative and senator slots today and where people campaign, I was saying to myself, now I know why the CPP did not do well. There were many places where they didn't have local candidates. They didn't have candidates for House of Representatives in many places. For the House of Senate, I think were 3 or 4 or 5 places where they didn't have candidates. So they didn't have people on the ground. How can you be a political party and you hang in the air and you don't have people on the ground? That's one of their problems. I think for all Liberian people, all hands must be on deck to make sure that we bring this misery to an end in Liberia. I can tell you it will be worse if Mr. Weah is reelected. The boys will feel that they are on their way out and they'll just grab everything and script everything and go with it. They also had a pass for 6 years. It's nothing that's going to stop them now. If we did it before nothing happened, what's going to stop us now from doing it? And they'll also try to a lot of infighting because they will want to do everything to protect themselves individually as well. I think Liberia deserves better. Our healthcare system is horrible. Our road condition is terrible. Our education system is broken. Drugs have taken over the country. Young people struggle and graduate from school. They can't have jobs. The economy is in the toilet. I'm sorry for using such a word. I mean, there were companies that were in the country. We criticize Ellen Sirleaf of corruption or whatever, but I can tell you, from where she met the country with the investment, $16 billion investment that came in the country that established Golden, Beryllium, and all of those companies that people were working at. All of those companies have disappeared today. The most lucrative business in the country now is going to politicians to get you a few cups of rice or get you a motorbike around election time. Young people go to school, graduate from college, they can't get jobs. Where are we? Where's vacation school when we're growing with their vacation school? I mean, vacation jobs. Those things do not exist. The country is sinking, and I want to urge all Liberians, all hands on deck. We need to turn it around. And that's why I'm so upset with the people who have the microphone in their mouths and in their hands who've been preaching and who have unfortunately dropped the microphone on the Liberian people and gone to fill their own pockets. I'll end here, Cyrus. You can take it over.
Well, thank you very much, Franco. Thank you, Ben Kole. Thank you, Princess. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another edition of our show, Election Central. I'm Cyrus Gray. I've been broadcasting from the Cape Hotel in Monrovia. Hope you had a meaningful 2-hour experience with us. We'll be back here next Sunday to discuss Election Central. Like Princess, I say, I'm going to add my words to it. We are in a critical junction in our country. There's no need to sit on the fence. We need to come together. If I were you, I would support the candidacy of Ambassador Joseph Bonhart. Do have a good week as we look forward to all the activities around pushing our country towards the election. A new corps of leaders who will bring in integrity, capability, inclusiveness for us to move our country forward. Thank you very much again, and do have a great new week.